Good morning and welcome to our morning show. Joining us today is our good friend Loren Glasbrenner, who's the district administrator for the River Valley School District. How you doing today, Loren?
I'm doing great. It was fun. On my drive over, I was listening to a little bit of jambalaya and crawfish pie, and I was snapping some fingers to old Hank Williams. So I love that. A good old classic country song kind of keeps you moving in the morning. So I appreciate that very much. It's a beautiful fall morning. So.
It is. I know you were a little disgruntled, though, because you guessed it was Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Yeah, there's a song by Mary Chapin Carpenter from the 80s that speaks to, I think, Beaujolais, which is the culinary piece that you were talking about, and it's about Twist and Shout, down at the Twist and Shout by Mary Carpenter, which is, I think, a Louisiana song about going to a dance down in Louisiana.
Okay.
Different. We don't know.
You got a legitimate gripe there. That's pretty close.
It's all good. It's all research. So it's good. It's good to have fun with that.
Yes, it is. We had a lot of fun at the River Valley School Fair. Was it a success in your eyes?
The River Valley School Fair is just that annual event that makes you so proud to be a part of southwestern Wisconsin. And I say it every time I'm here. I have the best job in the world, and I get to be a part of the school fair, and it's one of the great things that allows River Valley to really celebrate community. School fair was incredible. We had a record number of animals entered. We had a record number of other entries, whether it was crafts or whether it was vegetables, whether it was all that other stuff. We also had incredible agricultural educational experiences. So we have 8 different stations for children and family members to go to. I actually had some older folks from the community come up to me and say, those were great. I learned more about soil today than I'd ever known about soil before. And they do that through like chocolate pudding and a dirt cup. So, I mean, they're making ag into something achievable, attainable, really easy to learn about. And so with the ag experiences, with all the entries, it was just an incredible day for a school fair. We had perfect weather.
Yes.
We had incredible participation. We had an incredible homecoming event. So all week long, we're celebrating homecoming in the River Valley School District. Thursday night, we had an incredible pep rally after our volleyball match. And then Friday, we go into the big football game after a parade. The parade had a record number of entries. Just an incredible day, an incredible week, really, for River Valley. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it. Again, it takes a million hands to get all of that to happen. And so a continued shout out to some of the people behind the scenes. Last week on Thursday, the River Valley School Board recognized the efforts of the school fair secretaries and their 2 FFA alumni, Tiffany Neuheisel, as well as Rachel Eberly, are 2 young women that kind of take in every entry. Well, first, they plan out an entire school fair booklet. Just like a county fair, there's a school fair booklet about how to do the entries, how to get registered, how to follow the rules. They do that in coordination with Sherry Graffunder of FFA, an ag educator. And then from there, those 2 are the behind the scenes to get everything up and moving, whether it's a ribbon, whether it's a judge, whether it's a finding, making sure that the pig weighing is happening at the right time with the right people, with the right vet certifications. All of those behind the scenes people are incredible. And so our FFA alumni, huge shout out to them. To our parents that are involved, a huge shout out to them. Just the entire thing was smooth. It just rolled on by without a hitch. And it's because of all the hands that are behind the scenes. So a shout out to those young ladies, but also a shout out to everybody that was a part of just being our crowd. People come from out of the woodwork to be a part of the school fair. And I appreciate you guys coming over, you and Henry coming over too, and doing interviews on site. It adds to the tone. It adds to the excitement. And so we're just excited to continue the tradition of the school fair.
We really enjoyed ourselves, and a lot of students who are very articulate on the radio. I was just really impressed by those, and a lot of them are chosen by Mrs. Graffunder, but they all spoke very well, I think.
Yeah, our ag department is outstanding, but our FFA team, leadership team, which is usually made up of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, mainly upperclassmen from the high school, are a really articulate group. We've got some incredible speakers, but they're also just great kids. And I think the great thing about high school is you get to develop some of those interests into some job sets, So when I think about the kid that's out there talking about agriculture, if I was a local employer, I'd be thinking about how I can get that kid back into my business in the next few years as soon as they get out of postgraduate stuff from River Valley. We've got some talented kids, and we don't want them to scurry off to Iowa and Nebraska. We want them to stick around. So, yeah, I think we've got some great kids doing some great things. And, yeah, they're really articulate, and they know what they're talking about because they've been involved in that stuff for the entire school year. Summer, they come together as a leadership team, and they start talking about school fair and what the FFA goals are going to be for this school year. So the 24-25 FFA leadership team of those kids is just a great group of kids, and we're excited to have them for some of them their final year of activities at River Valley.
Did you go out and throw a cow chip, did you, or not?
I did not. No. So we had a new event that was run by Grady, I believe, and Grady's a great kid too. He's a junior, I believe, and Grady wanted to try out a new activity for kids, which was a cow chip throwing contest. I did not get back to the cow chip throwers, but I did see him doing it, and it's a fundraiser in that sense too, where, you know, kids are excited about the opportunity. I saw that, I believe there were age categories, so the littlest cow chip thrower had a trophy, as well all the way up to the senior cow chip thrower. So it's kind of fun to see that stuff. Obviously dried cow chips, and obviously they're trying to wear protective hand coverings if they need them. So it's all there, and it's fun. So it's a great tradition. I love that they try to put new things into it, like cow chip throwing, and keep the traditional things that have been there for the last 61 years, like a meat auction, so that kids can raise a great project and then sell it off to a community member. And so it takes the entire community to kind of come out, participate, sponsor, and be a part of the great event. And again, hats off to everybody that did it. We just were very, very lucky. It takes an entire school district to take the initiative to do this. I have in front of me 3 pages of tasks that the staff at River Valley has to kind of jump into as well. There's like face painting. Well, teachers in the elementary or high school get to be a part of that. So the teachers come over and they use their talents to paint some faces. We've got teachers that are helping us be a part of handing out ribbons. Teachers are there to make sure on Wednesday and Thursday night, you know, a jar of pickles comes in and it's registered correctly, and then making sure that it gets to the right table. So that starts on Wednesday night for a Friday fair. So staff, parents, volunteers are all hands on deck. So we're excited that it was an incredible year, and now we're thinking about what's year 62 for the River Valley School Fair look like. So we're always excited to think forward.
Another person inducted into the Ted Lynn's Hall of Honor. That was a very, very nice ceremony there.
There was. So the Ted Lynn's Hall of Honor, which is an annual celebration that we have in River Valley too, in honor of Ted Lynn's. It always goes out to an alumni or somebody that's gone above and beyond within the River Valley School District. The person that was recognized this year was Carla Carmody. She's an athlete from years ago, right? You know, Carla's my age, so, you know, we were athletes back in the day. I didn't go here, but she did. And so she's an alumni, but she's also a staff member. Carla Carmody is one of our tech ed teachers at River Valley High School. She's an incredible community member. She's an incredible staff member. And she just kind of emits this great energy. She's just a great person, and she shares that good energy with her kids every day in the classroom, as well as she did in high school. So she was a part of River Valley High School. I think she went away for a little bit. Her early career in teaching was not in River Valley, and then came back to River Valley. So it's pretty rare to have somebody that kind of, again, emits that great energy, that great almost patriotism for the district, if you will, and then brings it back to the Valley and continues to put in years to show service and dedication based on her alma mater. So a great recognition of Carla. Miss Carmody is well respected by many people. Everybody that meets her just loves her. So she's a great person to have on staff. And again, a huge shout out and congratulations that goes out to Carla Carmody.
Revenue limits. Today's a big day for districts around the state, isn't it?
It is a big day. So at 11 o'clock today, in the state of Wisconsin, the Department of Public Instruction will release revenue limits. And what revenue limits are basically is kind of the amount that a district gets to use within their budget. I'll keep it at very high level kind of stuff because it's a really complex process to figure out the entire school budget. But basically, it's an estimate that you set in the summer. And until today, you're working on estimates, right? You're working on estimates in the school year. Starting today, Mr. Cry, our business manager, will be able to take that revenue, and he is then allowed to figure out what the mill rate or the tax rate will be on equalized property values in the district. So we all can go back and look at the basic kind of ideas here on school funding, but it's a lot based on the property value of all properties within the district, whether it's a business within Lone Rock or a farm that's way out in Bear Valley. So all of that gets kind of a property value thrown to it to make sure that it matches. Then that overall equalized property value in a district is going up or down, right? That's what we have to look at all times. It's higher in some spots and lower in others. So I know for right now, out of my municipalities within River Valley, I've got everything from Black Earth, Arena, Clyde, Ridgeway, Wyoming, etc. We try to keep in our district some of that really aware. I guess I would say there's a lot in school funding that the schools are not responsible for. And I will say that your equalized value within your home or your property is set by your municipality, not by your school district. And a lot of people think if their taxes go up, it's the school's fault. And that's not true. That's not always true, I should say. If there's great things happening in your district and you support that, it might require you to have your district dollars go up. But truly, it's a lot based on the equalized value of your property or home. And I guess I would say that fluctuates in bigger districts. So you've heard me talk about River Valley being a great big landmass that we are. And there's certain municipalities that are going up and certain municipalities that are actually going down. So if I look at the village of Spring Green, their 2024 percentage change will actually maybe, if everything kind of pans out based on our estimations, go down. But if you live out in Buena Vista, which I do, by the way,
Me
up
too.
in Bear Valley, our 2024 percent change will go up by 18.15%. So people will say, well, how did my taxes go up? I think we need to get better at going back to our municipalities and making sure we're aware of what's going on there with property values that then gets translated into a school district budget and how we try to set that. So once that value comes out at 11 o'clock today, we have numbers. Those numbers we try to bring in. And now the district, we're trying to figure out what's going up and what's going down. Based on what's happened in our municipalities, it looks as if the average equalized value of our properties, Phil, your home and my home, will go up by 7.6%. Okay, so you heard me say that ours is going up by 18. Some are only going up by 1. And so somewhere in the middle is where the equalized average property value will be. That's what the district gets to play with. So within that, depending on where the final state revenue limit comes in today at 11 o'clock, we hope to decrease in River Valley our mill rate so that we can continue not to have a huge increase. All in all, a lot of numbers, a lot of my mouth talking really equals the idea that even though your value goes up, we're trying to keep our mill rate down so that your average tax dollar doesn't go way up. We're really trying to spend carefully in the valley to make sure that we're not asking for more than we need. And it's really about that idea of tax levies and equalized values to truly not make it hurt when it comes to the tax bill. And if your tax bill does go up, I guess I would say take a look at where it's going up. Really research what's happening on that tax bill because it's not always your district, right? It's sometimes your municipality or somebody that's assigned your property a new value, and because it now is worth more, they tax you more. So there's a lot in there. It's a lot to understand, but I guess I would say within that, just dig in. And if you have any questions, always feel free to call your district offices. I think it's really important that we think about how to fund schools. I've been on here before and we talk through how schools are funded. I know I heard a radio ad just as I was driving over also for Ithaca. Ithaca's got a school referendum. And it takes money to run a school district. And so for littler districts like in Ithaca, they are highlighting things appropriately. They do have an incredible FFA program. They do have incredible youth apprenticeships. They do have an incredible school climate out there based on small, intimate, great things that are happening. But ultimately, the residents of the Ithaca School District have to figure out what the vision of that is. Just like River Valley, just like Riverdale, just like Richland School District, we all have to be involved in those big conversations so that we know what we want for the children of tomorrow.
Indeed, and not to bring up the R word, but certainly as you look down the road, possibly going to referendum, this could have an impact on how people feel about it.
Absolutely. And so part of that radio spot for the Ithaca School District that I was listening to, it said, I can't remember the gentleman's name, doesn't matter, but he was
Mick.
basically saying, if this doesn't pass, we have to think about whether or not our doors will stay open. That is really the impetus, I guess, or the big question that we have out there for a lot of small communities. And I would say this isn't just southwestern Wisconsin. This is across the state of Wisconsin. Based on how we fund our schools, we are going to have some deep and heavy conversations about how big you want your districts to be, or whether or not you want to keep your doors open. Things have changed. We all know that. And things have been greatly moving forward, but we also have to think about how much that costs. And with inflation going up, so does everything. So the cost of transportation, just gasoline alone for a bus, costs way more money than it used to. So all of that digs in for school districts. The number of schools in the state of Wisconsin that have had to go to operational referenda has never been seen like it is right now. It'll be interesting in the November election to see those results. So that's something I'll speak to in November, Phil, when I come back. There's so many districts going to operational referenda just to pay for the bills, right? To pay for the electric, to pay for transportation, to pay for the gas, to pay for the books and the curriculum. All of those things cost money. And if the state has said to us, you're only getting this amount and that amount is less than inflation, then we've got to come back out to our voters and say, okay, we don't have the money coming from the state. We need additional dollars. That's what the operational referendum process is for. And so then we get to ask for those monies to come back and fund your schools. And that's exactly what Ithaca's doing, is trying to get those additional dollars in so that they can continue the work that they're currently doing. It's not to improve, it's to keep the current programming moving forward.
To stay the same.
Yeah.
There's so many things, Loren, that aren't in your control too. and I don't want to belittle anything, obviously. Special education comes into play, much needed. But
Yes.
those are things that maybe weren't needed a few years ago as much as they are now in terms of the programs, right?
It could be. And there's a lot of federal laws that come out for things like special education that require a district to pay 100%, right? We have to pay 100% for whatever the cost would be. So let's say it's a special program within special education, and you can think of that, blueberry pie. There's going to be 100% of the blueberry pie there. The state requires that. It's federal mandated. It comes back down through the state. Those dollars come in. It's going to cost a certain amount, and the state has said it should be fully funded. Okay, it's got to be fully funded. So then you would think as a district that the dollars coming from the federal and the state would make up that amount. Nope, they don't. Currently in the state of Wisconsin, it's about 30% of what's coming in. So it's mandated, but they're giving us 30% of that. So 70% of that pie has got to come from somewhere else. And often what happens is then you go to your general budget to cover those federal costs. So yes, special education is a good example of where there's a huge push right now to get the state to just come up to 60%. Double your dollars, state. You've got money that you've been saving. You've got money that kind of is in a rainy day fund. And we all know that the state of Wisconsin has billions of dollars out there in their funds. School districts are saying, give us some of that to just meet what you mandate up to 60%, not 100%. How about we get to 60%? If that would happen in most school districts, you would see millions of dollars additionally that we wouldn't have to transfer out of general fund into special ed funding. So it would help our general budgets by millions of dollars in almost every school district in the state of Wisconsin based on the numbers of kids. So it's again, like I said before, incredibly complex, but we want the state to recognize we're all in these really hard times and we're going to need some help. And so districts jump in and say things like, we need an operational referendum to keep the doors open. And it's happened to all the districts around us right now as we sit here, Phil. So it's something that I think everybody in the communities needs to really take a really close look at and really think about talking to your legislators to say, hey, what's he talking about? What do you mean there's all these things that are mandated, but you're not giving them full funding for? Yep, it's mandated. We've got to pay for it. Now give us some funding to meet it. So that's really what the political side of the budget hits, for sure.
You are in a larger school district. I believe Columbus is bigger than River Valley. That's where you were at before. But what are the challenges? Are they unique to their district and larger districts going through kind of the same things?
Yeah, the state gives us a compensation, like I keep talking about. I think it's 30.9% that we get for special ed funding. That's the same in Columbus or in Sun Prairie or in Middleton or in River Valley or in Ithaca or in Richland, wherever we are, we're getting that same percentage. But the difference is their general amount of taxes that they can levy based on the number of students. If your student population is going up, you're getting more money. Ithaca's numbers aren't going up, Richland's aren't going up, River Valley's numbers aren't going up, so we keep getting less money. And I think that's where it hits more. Where we see, again, in the state of Wisconsin, a lot of growth, it's happening in suburbia, right? So it's happening in places like Sun Prairie's got great growth. Wanakee continues to see growth. Verona keeps having growth. Middleton Cross Plains is growing. Madison is not. Right? Wisconsin Heights a little bit. I sat by a gentleman who's the superintendent in La Crosse. La Crosse, the city of La Crosse, a great big college town. You think of it as this, just bustling place of activity, has decreasing enrollment. La Crosse proper, the city of La Crosse, is getting smaller. The city of Green Bay's public school district getting smaller. I think last year I saw an article where there are 11 schools in Green Bay were going to have to be closed because they don't have the number of kids in the city. So that urban feel is out. The suburban is growing. The rural is getting smaller. So we just see this kind of migration of people going across the state of Wisconsin, and the funding follows the kid. And if you don't have more kids or more businesses coming into your area, you're just not going to get as much money as you once had.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring up La Crosse, too, because there's been talk about consolidating high schools, but Holman and Onalaska, places like that are seeing a huge growth, aren't they?
So those suburban schools grow, and then your city proper schools, it's almost, it's like squeezing, and the number of kids are not going up. In the state of Wisconsin, in general, people aren't having the same amount of children. So where there used to be 5 kids, even in a family in La Crosse, let's say they had 4 children, you're down to 1 or 2 children. So it's almost within a short amount of time, your school district is getting half the size, but the buildings are still all there. So what do you do with those buildings? In River Valley, we had 4 elementaries, right? We had an elementary in Arena. We had one in Lone Rock. We had one in Plain, and we had one in Spring Green. We were forced to make some really hard decisions based on enrollment to bring everybody to a centralized location. Again, that was Spring Green just by location. It wasn't based on Spring Green's the best. It was based on location alone because it's in the center of our location. Richland School District has had to consolidate further. It's really something to behold in the state of Wisconsin as you take a look at any district from like the 1960s, 70s when I was born and you were born, all the way up until we have now. The last 50 years in education has changed demographics rapidly. And so now we have old buildings, fewer kids, and what are we going to do? And that's really what's happened to a lot of districts. If you didn't build in the magical 90s or even in the early 2000s, now it's kind of become crunch time in the land of school budgeting. And so a lot of us in leadership positions have really had to dig deep to figure out how we balance all the budgets within our walls of our schools.
Interesting stuff. We'll come back with more in a moment. Loren Glasbrenner, District Administrator of River Valley Schools, in with us today. We continue our conversation on the morning show with Loren Glasbrenner, River Valley Schools. I know there's a big effort in the River Valley community. The Liturgy Fest is going on right now, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's a great group of retirees and young people that are working together to really kind of push on ideas of literacy in the Spring Green area. And I always love to find those community connections. The school fair is one great example of a community connection where the community's alive and we all get to celebrate something fun. So in the month of October, we have a group called the Spring Green Literary Fest, and they put on throughout the month of October all sorts of really fun activities where people are centralized around a common theme, a common book, a common read. And some of the things that have been happening are just really cool for people to be involved with. Last night we had an author event. It was sponsored by Arcadia Books, independent bookstore over in Spring Green. But the author was Brian Reisinger, who is a River Valley graduate. You said you had him on the radio.
We did.
And his book is called Land Rich, Cash Poor. So we think about land rich, cash poor, and we think about schools. and we think about the vast amount of property that a lot of farmers have, they are land rich. They have a ton of land. Much of it now is being used for crops, but cash poor. They've invested so much time in equipment, in seed, in money that the actual money that's sitting in their accounts or in their checkbook isn't there. It's all invested. I was talking to my dad last night, and they're pulling the corn off the crops over in Crawford County, where our home farm is, and the mill, I guess I'd call it, down in Boscobel is full. The corn coming off, there's so much abundance of it right now, and everybody's trying to get it out of the fields. But do we have a need for it? Is there truly the need for the amount of corn that's being produced in southwestern Wisconsin right now? And it gets into subsidies, and it gets into a lot of politics around agriculture that I'm not great at. But what it does is it really makes us think carefully about planning and how the land provides for us as communities, and whether or not we're doing the best for the land, for our communities, which includes agriculture, a tremendous amount of agriculture. So that book. What'd you think of Brian? How did the interview go?
It went really well. And of course, you know me, I like to reminisce a little bit. And talked about his family farm and, you know, how it's still in existence in the River Valley District and whatnot. And, you know, moving forward and, you know, ways we can, you know, maybe keep that going. So,
yeah, I've spoken before about a Jerry Apps book that speaks to what are small farmers going to do. And sometimes we see some openings of opportunity, whether it's through finding your niche, as they say, whether it's through vegetables or through flowers or through one crop. You see, like, I think the cranberry harvest is happening in Wisconsin. We've seen centralized in central Wisconsin, cranberries being something that we have as a state a great abundance of, and we get to be the major producer of. Wild rice, that's another thing that you get to see. I think the diversity of what we have in our farms right now is really interesting to me. It's something that I like to study a little bit, because as a kid, you know, I like to be a little nostalgic too, but I can think of sitting on the back of an oat seed planter and picking up rocks, and how many farmers are planting oats now? How many farmers are planting wheat? How many farmers are really having a diversity, and how many have just strictly gone to monocultures in corn or soybeans? So I know it's about profits and paying the bills. I get that too, but it is a big conversation out there in the world of agriculture, and it's just, again, those last 50 years. Look at the changes that have happened in ag, and I think that translates into your communities, one of which is your school district. So I think that definitely reflects. So again, Brian Reisinger, he's been a great author for us, and that was a great event last night. Coming up, we have another event coming up for kids. It's really for teenagers and high schoolers around a book called The Diary of a Young Naturalist. We have a lot of young people that are taking a great interest in the future of our environments, the future of our ecosystem. So that's another one, Diary of a Young Naturalist. There's an art exhibit out at the Wyoming Valley School between Spring Green and Dodgeville. We have a beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright structure out there called the Wyoming Valley School, and there's a cultural art exhibit about prairies, the tallgrass prairie ecosystem. And so you can go out there, and it's a free exhibit where you can be there. It's on the weekend, so it'd be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 3. Great art exhibit out there called Driftless Prairie Visions with 5 local artists. And so that's exciting to be there. We have a poetry reading coming up, and that'll be run by some actors by APT. We're going to have Tracy Michelle Arnold and David Daniel. They'll be reading an evening of poetry. The poetry will be by author Wendell Berry. That's coming up. We have a book discussion for a whole community read on the book called Pastoral Song. That's a great book by James Rebanks. So again, education is more than just what's happening in your schools. Education is about how your entire community embraces learning, and things like LitFest, as I like to call it, are about adult education sometimes. It's about making sure that your entire community continues to grow and learn and read and focus in on great conversations about our community. And again, this year, the whole community read is on a centralized theme of nature and how we use nature. On 26th of October, we're going to have a community-wide potluck, so that we'll have organic produce and slow created foods, I think, or local foods creating into a potluck. And then it finishes up with one final kind of LitFest excitement over there. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, it would be springgreenliteraryfest.org. Again, springgreenliteraryfest.org. And it's got great events that are centralized around great books that take us into a conversation about community and how we're using the land. And I think it's been really fun to be a part of.
Musical practice is underway. You'll be
yeah.
putting on another musical this year, Loren.
Yes, we're putting on Mean Girls. So transitioning right into another community event. Yes, the kids are producing it, and under the direction of Sarah Young and Rebecca Schinker, our high school choral music teacher. We've started the process of practices and choreography and staging of Mean Girls, which is a great movie. You guys have seen that before, I'm sure. It's been on TV many years. But within that, now we get to have an interpretation that goes to stage. And that'll be exciting. And there's some great music that you'll recognize. But coming up in the next couple months, I'll make sure I bring some of the Mean Girls cast over, and they can give you a good taste of the excitement around that show that they're creating over at the River Valley High School. It's going to be a great event. Again, that will be coming up. I believe the show's in December, so it'll happen right before, I hate to say this, our holiday break, which will be here before we know it, right? We're gonna fly from now into deer hunting into Thanksgiving into Christmas, and then it's gonna be the first of the year. So autumn seems like it's on a fast track of movement. And so as we move forward, there's great things that are happening. But yes, Mean Girls, musical. River Valley High School will be coming up in December. I'll get you more dates. I'll get you more stuff. But it's a sold-out show every single year in River Valley because of the talent and great efforts of the adults that get great opportunities for kids.
Mm-hmm. Almost need to add more shows and more,
Yeah.
Then everybody would be tired if you put it on more than you do.
Correct. We do rent facilities out at the American Players Theater for the productions because we could put it on a stage, but it just wouldn't be the same. Like we have a high school stage, but it doesn't have the right lighting. It doesn't have the right sound systems. It doesn't have the same as if we go rent a facility. So those will be put on out at the American Players Theater, and I'll get you more details on that. But more than anything, not the details, just the kids. I want the kids to come and speak and sing to the great efforts that they're putting in for the show. So I'll bring them with me next time.
Oh, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add here at the end, Loren?
Well, I just wanted to read, you know me, crazy man, great books, this Diary of a Young Naturalist. It's a great book by Dara McAnulty. And in there, it speaks to autumn. And it really made me think about as I get up in the morning and I see the fog lift out there in Bear Valley, and I get to see kind of the deer are starting to run around a little bit more, and you see the autumn colors coming. It makes me think of autumn. And in this great book, sometimes an author can capture it, and I think he did a good job. So this is what it says. The smell of the earth in autumn is different. It's intoxicating, a massive exhaling of compounds that swing my senses. And while the land breathes out, I breathe in deeply, covering the incoming dread of the newness to come. Winter will be here. Yet we have a new school year, we've got new people, new navigations, yet there's a little bit of grief as everything starts to die. So grief, although not as raw, still pulses. These past months lead us to these next months, and I wonder what will be of the days lost and the days to come. So talks about autumn, and I think it's a great transition time. Your school year starts and it gets going, but it goes, like I said, really quickly. And so I just encourage everybody out there in, Radio Land, whoever's listening, get involved with your communities, but get involved with your schools. They're great places to be. Think about working for a school district. We always need a good substitute or a great bus driver or somebody that helps us out. It takes many hands to make it like work. And again, come out and be a part of your school districts. Not just at referendum time. Yes, do your homework, know what you're voting for, but come out and be a part of the great things that are happening at your schools.
All right. You always get us fired up, Loren. Good stuff.
Try to.
Appreciate you coming in here as always.
Thank you.
Loren Glasbrenner. He'll be back next month, District Administrator for the River Valley School District. More coming up in the morning show about community events.